You see my slide, all right?
Yes, we see it
Okay,
very well.
thank you. Okay, all right. Nice seeing you guys on Zoom. And my name is Atsuko Yamazaki, and I belong to Shibaura Institute of Technology in Japan. And we have 3 campuses in Tokyo and Saitama region. And I belong to this information communication department, but for the undergraduate student, I teach English. And also, I been doing research in communication in relation with engineering and also brain functioning. And also, I've been associated with the research in global communication and the global competencies in engineering and also for companies now. So today I'd like to talk about well, mainly brain functioning uh, techniques, and also one technique called brain imaging, which has been used for engineering studies, in particular human factor engineering. Okay, what is human factor engineering? Oh, okay. Let me disappear from the Zoom. Okay, then you can see my slide more. And okay, well, I guess it's kind of a new area in engineering research nowadays. And one definition maybe can be application of knowledge on human factors to the design equipment and the products and the system. This system, the word system, I'd like to include the work systems and management system, and of course, communication systems. As you know, human communication system is a very, very complex processing, and which happening in our brain. And also, human communication system involves linguistics and non-linguistic activities. And they are, of course, conscious and subconscious, processes inside of our brain. So, now many researchers in engineering, and in particular, engineers and also researchers in human factors engineering, try to figure out communication systems in terms of brain activities. And they tend to deal with human, I mean, not only human communication system, but also human machine communication. So now many recent studies of human factor engineering focus on examining the relationship between communication and brain structure. And in a way, they tended to focus on activity and function of human brain. So in order to do this investigation, many researchers now use techniques called brain imaging. So what is brain imaging? Well, this is a technology originated from brain studies, and many psychologists and behavioral scientists have been using this technique. But now, this brain imaging techniques becoming more handy, and that's why now researchers and even engineers in particular human factor engineering use this technique to find out what's going on in our brain in order to construct systems and improve their systems in engineering. And this is because some techniques are now becoming very non-invasive. So this is a key word. That's why not only doctors, but also engineering researchers now use this brain imaging technique to view activity and functions within our brain. So what are neuroimaging studies in human factor engineering? Well, these studies focus on which areas of brain perform specific tasks. Well, in particular, in relation to system enhancement. So, so I'd like to talk about two kind of basic theories for brain imaging, and one is functional brain mapping. Probably you've seen this color picture, which actually correspond to these numbers. These are called Brodmann areas. Well, Brodmann areas were actually eventually originated from, let's see, numbering of several cortex, number from 1 to 52, and there used to be maps of cortical areas, and according to the composition of neural nerve system. But many researchers have found that this numbering corresponded to specific, behaviors and brain tasks. For example, these areas are Brodmann area 45 and 44, and they correspond to semantic fluency. And these areas are Brodmann area 1 through 3, associated with finger, hand sensory, and movement. And here, yes, our previous keynote speaker mentioned about this too. And this is a primary visual cortex, and this is associated with light intensity. Another famous one, actually, brain lateralization. And of course, this theory now received some criticism, but this is a very fundamental one. And as you know, our brain is divided into two hemispheres, left hemisphere and the right hemisphere, and each hemisphere associated with a specific task. For example, left hemisphere associated with knowledge and scientific skills and logic. On the other hand, right hemisphere controls emotional expressions, music, and creativity. So many engineering, studies in human factor engineering, use these kind of theories as a base. Let me introduce some brain image techniques. And these three techniques are not so common among researchers because they are very hard for engineers to handle. And the PT, and in order to use this technique, we have to inject radioactive material to subject. So it's very invasive. So we try not to use this one. And MEG, this is the picture of MEG. And as you can see from the picture, the subject movement is often restricted. And also this creates a strong magnetic field. So this magnetic field can affect other devices like, PCs. So that's why we kind of, try not to use this one. And the CT, I guess some of you have experienced, having this CT scanning at a hospital also, but also this, CT tended to have a restriction on a subject in experiments. So that's why we don't use these techniques. But so these techniques are often used for clinical purposes. But on the other hand, these three are very popular nowadays among human factor engineering. And the EEG, most popular one because they're cheap and handy and light. And even many softwares nowadays, I mean, these softwares nowadays for engineering research. And the functional MRI, yes, this is the one. And well, this is a huge machine and very expensive. But if you have a chance, it's very nice, system to use to investigate, what's going on inside our brain. And the last one, news or functional news. It's called a near-infrared spectroscopy. And in our lab, we use this system a lot. And functional MRI and also functional news both measure blood oxygenation in brain. So let me compare, these techniques. So as you can see from this table, functional MRI and news are pretty good in terms of non-invasiveness. But functional MRI doesn't have a good, flexibility because of a huge machine, and you need somebody to operate on that machine, and also expensive. EEG, I'd like to talk about the problem of EEG a little bit later, but this is good and cheap, but doesn't have a good spatial resolution. Let me compare, functional MRI and the news. Okay, both measures blood oxygenation in the brain, and EEG can be affected by electromagnetic noise. So that's why sometimes, measurement using EEG can be affected by, this electromagnetic noise from your PC. So that's why we use functional MRI and the news for more detailed measurement of the brain in human factor engineering. And there is assumption for both functional MRI and the news technique. The assumption is this: when a brain area is more active, it consumes more oxygen. So this is the basis of theories for functional MRI and functional news. So since we use news systems a lot, let me talk about largest news system manufactured by Hitachi, and it's called ETLTC2000. And this number actually corresponds to the price of this system. It's 4 million, actually yen, 4 million yen actually. No, $4 million, I guess. Okay, it's expensive, but compared to functional MRI, it's cheap. So our institute owns this, and here we do have so-called probes, and those probes are set onto the subject head like this, and once this headgear are set onto subject head, the subject can perform tasks in natural posture. This is quite big advantage compared to other techniques. So this picture shows how this news measurement can be done. The news can measure oxy and the oxyhemoglobin concentration changes in blood in the brain. And also you can do video recording along with the measurement, and also the hemoglobin concentration changes can be recorded as time series along with the time series as a signal. So it's very easy to process the signal. So this red area shows high blood concentration change. So this increases, this red area shows the increase in oxyhemoglobin concentration. So that actually means, okay, this area is activated. On the other hand, this is blue area, and they're not activated. So this is how we interpret this, topography. This is a NIST principle, and there's a two probes are used to measure this channel. This red one releases near infrared light, and then this blue one detects how much of the light is attenuated in this region. The NIOS measures changes of blood volume in the range of 2 to 3 centimeters from scalp. So it only measures the, surface of the area. And the channel are about, 3 centimeters apart. And it measures every 0.1 second. So which corresponds to your activity is 100 to 200 meters. Let me show you more, handy available new systems. This is a one also produced by Hitachi, and it's called WOT200. It's a 16 to 23 channels, and this measures only frontal area of the brain. And the Shimazu, another Japanese company, also sells the same kind of big ones. This is also 52 channels, and also portable ones too. And another one, this is, I guess, American company, but not so popular in Japan. Now, new company called New. Okay, this is a venture company by Hitachi and Tohoku University. Now sells this two-channel new system, which is very handy and much cheaper, much cheaper. So we own two of them for communication research. It's very good. And the big ones, these ones now use, I'm sorry. These ones, the big ones, are now only used for clinical diagnosis purposes. So now, from now on, let me talk about some examples of new studies in language acquisition. Two of them, the very famous ones. This experiment, the researchers, had this 2 to 5 day old infant listen to three different, actually two different sounds, storing Italian forward and then reverse the same sound and also no sound. The new system can be manufactured in a small ones like this. So that's why we can use news for language acquisition studies. So as you can see from here, their brain, actually the language area of their brain actually activated when they listen to Italian and even reverse the Italian sound. So they tend to, react to, sound. And another one, this is very interesting one too, and Miyagawa, and he had a Japanese infants, and she had these infants listen to English, Japanese sounds, and also monkey calls. And she measured, brain areas corresponding to language areas and also emotional areas. She found that when these babies listen to Japanese sound, their language area are more activated than English. And for the emotion, of course, but this is very interesting because when they listen to monkey calls with emotion, their language area was activated, and also emotional areas. So now let me talk about some of our studies we done at lab. So we kind of borrowed the design of experiment for the Italian babies. So we had our subject listen to recording the 5 reversed Japanese sentences without emotions and without emotions. And then we measured language area of their brain. We found that when they listen to Japanese, which is their native language, their language area are more active without emotion. But on the other hand, when we did the same experiment with Malay language, we had opposite result. So we assume that maybe too much emotion with language sound can lead to distraction for language comprehension. But when we listen to non-familiar language sound, we tend to use emotion as a clue for communication. All right, let's go to our study number 1. And this is for English learning process. As you know, each language has different language frequency range. Japanese language has lower frequency range than British language. So what we did was this. We enhanced high frequency range of English sounds, and then had our subject, Japanese students, listen to English sentence with high frequency range enhanced. And also we did the same experiment without any enhancement, and also with low frequency range enhancement. We found that our subject students' language area were more activated when they listen to English sentence with enhanced high frequency range. So maybe we could use high frequency range enhanced English material to have our students learn English better, maybe. And another study, we actually are doing this now, and we try to enhance elder people's frontal area by using different color. And this old lady is doing so-called let's see, short memory tasks called let's see, sorry. So she has to memorize underlined word, but with different background color. So we found that the contrast of character and color of character and also background can contribute to elder people's brain enhancement. Okay. Well, okay. I guess I'm kind of running out of time, so let's skip this one. And we did another study with elder people for their sensory areas. And now let me talk about some drawbacks of brain imaging. Well, as you can imagine, it's not so easy to measure brain activity for a long time. It's a lot of burden for a subject to wear those, headgears. And also, there are, individual differences in the brain. So you have to have a lot of measurement from many subjects. This is sometimes very, very hard. And then lastly, the brain is not that simple. This is why those basic theories, brain mapping theories, and also brain lateralization have now some criticism. And also communication activities are very, very complicated, not only by brain language areas, but also other areas are involved. In particular, frontal lobes, they are associated with the communication, and since communication activity is a very, very high level activity. So let me introduce two examples of how complex brain activity is. When we see there was APPLE, then this kind of visual signal goes to primary visual cortex, and then decoded at angular gyrus, then sent to these language areas of the brain. And then Broca's area send the signal to motor cortex to move a muscle to produce sound apple. But when you see the, just a picture, the figure, the process is different. It goes to primary visual cortex and directly goes to these language areas to produce sounds. This is actually true for Chinese character, which is called kanji. This Chinese character means moon. So this Chinese character is actually processed as a picture like the moon picture. So, well, as I told you, neuroimaging is not easy technique, but, and also people shifting from one region to one function mapping to, bringing brain activity as a result of function network among many regions. This is very difficult sometimes. And also, it's not easy to associate behavior with the result of networking in the brain. But in order to produce, a very effective systems in terms of engineering, we have to understand the relationship between mechanisms of the brain and the networking and behavior. And the neuroimaging is not easy to interpret the data, but I would say it surely shows an important piece of evidence. Since I've been doing this, neuroimaging for engineering for more than 10 years, this is my kind of conclusion, actually. In order to understand the relationship between mechanism of brain and networking and the behavior, even communication. So, what to do? And well, we have to bridge neuroscience data communication engineering, and this is indispensable to create very effective, systems in terms of engineering, And although it's very difficult to incorporate the neuroscience to engineering, but I guess we need to have some kind of collaborative research among researchers in neuroscience, psychology, linguistic communication science. I think this is a key, but often very difficult because these people, scientists live in a different world, I would say. So communication is very important, I think. Well, thank you very much for your attention, and now I'd like to have a comments and question. Thank you.
Thank you, Yamazaki-sensei, very much for sharing these interesting studies with us. And for myself, I found quite interesting examples which affect our own research on computer-assisted prosody teaching. So just very interesting considerations. And that's why I have one question. In these experiments about dependency between the comprehension and emotional and non-emotional speech suggested to those who participated in the experiments. Do you believe that it is a kind of more common case? So not a specific case for Japanese people. That do you know some research showing that if we do the same with the native speakers in English or in Italian or in Russian, so they will have the same, or it could depend on the language structure, on the frequencies as well, because probably English language could be considered as more emotional simply because of this higher range of frequencies. And so is it kind of common conclusion as you believe, or more specific for the case of Japanese people?
That's very interesting. I can comment on the question. I think I would say Japanese, in particular, students are less emotional than in particular Americans, and probably I would suspect that we do have the same kind of a tendency of interpreting emotion. So well, I've been teaching communication study to graduate students, and I often cite one study about emotions, and some researchers did emotional pictures showing to people living in African countries. They found the reaction to those pictures are almost the same as other people in other countries, which means probably the reaction to emotional sounds are pretty generic.
Why with these experiments with just with the newborn babies? So why Italian phrases were suggested to them? So Italian?
This is not Italian. We compared Japanese sound reverse.
Not in this example, but in the previous example, you mentioned that
phrases, Italian one
were suggested. Why Italian language was chosen for such a research?
Well, you mean
that will be probably a couple of slides. Oh yes, the story in Italian. So why Italian?
Okay. Well, because these research are Italian.
Okay. So that was native stories for them, not kind of.
We followed this. Actually, this is very clever. Experimental design. See, by reversing, Italian sentence, so you can separate the meaning of the sentence from the sound. See.
Yes, that's quite fascinating. Thank you very much. So. Dear colleagues, if you have more questions, so just William, welcome.
Professor Pishkin, can I ask a question?
Yes.
Yes, of course.
So, Professor Yamazaki, thank you very much for your exciting talk. Just have a very simple and technical question, very simple one. Could you please show me slide 22 or 25?
Okay. 22. This is the one. Okay.
Yeah, this is a rather technical issue. So we are also getting some data from the brain. My question to you is, how do you deal with noise when you record some part of the brain? How do you deal with noise? Do you have some?
Okay. What do you mean by noise? Noise from outside or?
Noise recording the brain signal. Sometimes you have outside noises. How do you filter them? How do you deal with them?
Actually, this system is pretty clever. They have a noise filtering system installed and the calibration too.
I see.
Okay. And this system records the, only the difference of, blood, the amount of, hemoglobin concentrations, all right, from the starting point to the measurement point. So you can see how much, oxygenation occurred from the beginning.
Okay, I understand.
Due to the task.
Okay, so you let the software, the tool which you use to filter out noises.
And low pass filter. It has two different types of low pass filters to cut the noise.
So, dear colleagues, sorry, I've been a little bit confused because William made a sign, but Ben started talking, and I didn't realize immediately that it is not William who talks. So, William, please have a question.
Oh, thank you. I did have a question that was related to the previous question before this last one about noise, which was I backed several slides. I think the slide before the one on the Italian sounds, there was a comparison in 4-month-old infants by Minagawa in 2010. Minagawa 2010 looked at Japanese versus English sounds for 4-month-old babies. That's very interesting to me. And actually,
I really love this paper.
I'd love to read it. I looked online. I found lots by Minagawa with an extra name, Minagawa Kawai now, I think. Okay. But anyways,
she's been doing a research with researched at college, University College London.
Oh, very good. Yeah, I know that area, and I think I don't know if I have a good question for your expertise here, but I'm glad that you brought this up because I think it's a great window into what's going on in the 4-month-old. But now I'm interested also in the content of this paper, which I haven't read, so I apologize. I'm not asking an informed question, but I wonder. You want a personal note? I raised a daughter in Aizu Wakamatsu who heard a lot of English and a lot of Japanese language as she was growing up, and she's yeah. So she's actually able to converse comfortably in either language. But we also exposed her to a learning product called Baby Einstein when she was young. Do you know the product? Baby Einstein exposes infants, 4-month-old infants, to all the languages of the world. And the supposition is by listening to those during a formative period, the infant will develop distinctions between all the different acoustical phonetic contrasts.
That's right, exactly. This is a key. Actually, I use this, example of research in my class. My graduate course, to tell a student that we gradually lose the ability to discriminate the different types of language sounds.
Well, for example, I didn't learn Japanese until I was over 30, and so I was outside of that critical period, if there is one.
That's right. My assumption is that we try to tune our system to the ones we really need. So we tend to ignore, unnecessary whatever, things, functions are, right? So
I'd be interested to know whether there's evidence here in these kind of brain imaging studies that show when it is that critical period passes away and is no longer a good idea to play the Baby Einstein tapes for our children.
That's why there are lots of brain actually functioning studies for bilingualism. A lot, very interesting.
Yeah. Okay, so dear friends, thank you very much. So thanks again for this outstanding presentation and quite impressive talk.
Thank you very much. I really enjoyed the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. And we will move to the next, our next keynote presenter, which is Professor John Bryan, who currently represents the University of Waikato from New Zealand, but we know him very well as our former colleague in the University of Aizo. And of course, I could say that he is a very good friend of mine as well. And so, John, I'm extremely happy to see you with us. So please try to start your presentation as soon as possible.
There, sorry, I was muted. I'm very happy to be here, and I have pre-recorded my presentation. I've made a video, and it's all subtitled too, because I had anticipated that there might be possibly students or people who might benefit from having a subtitle. So that's
very kind
the way
of
I've
you.
done it. Well, and anyway, I'll let the presentation speak for itself, and I'll just share my screen now. Can you see that?
Yes, yes, we can see it well.
Okay, and I'm just, let's just make sure that the subtitles are there. Yes, they are. Okay, so I think the volume may be set a bit high. There may be some slides that where the volume is slightly, there's some modulation, but anyway, I think it's, you can just adjust as needed. So here we go.
John, do you expect that we should see already something, because we still, I think, see the title slide?
Oh.
Yes, I don't know about everyone, but myself.
Yeah, we have the same thing. We are still on the first slide.
Sorry, just a moment. So what's the problem? You cannot see the slides changing?
No.
Yes, yes, we only see the title slide and that's it.
So you're not onto the second slide. I'm using VLC to show it. And it's strange that it comes up with the first slide, but then no others. I can see it. It's transitioning here. It's just a video that's
okay, but
that's
we don't.
playing.
If
Yeah.
you try to share the screen again.
Do you see any change now?
No.
That's quite strange. Oh, it says my shared window is not at the front. It's at the front for me, but apparently it's not at the front for you.
If you stop sharing and then share it again.
Yeah, I'll try that.
Oh,
You
yes.
see anything?
That yes, we see something quite different.
Okay, so I'll start it again and just see how it goes.
Right.
Now, can you hear the video, the audio? Could you hear the audio?
We can only hear you, but not the audio from the presentation.
Now, can you hear the audio from the pre-recording?
No.
No.
That's odd. Okay, well then we'll go to plan 2, which is instead I will share the slides themselves and do it that way. Sorry, just a moment. It's hadn't anticipated. We tested this, but for some reason it's not working. I don't know why. Sorry.
John, are you trying to open your slides right now, or just?
Yes, don't worry. I'm working on it, and it's almost there. Just a moment, please.
Okay, just because we can only see your face and just we're trying to guess what is happening.
Well, I'm
right
sorry.
now.
I'm sorry about that.
Oh no, that's nice to see your face, of course.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So. Okay, I'm going to start it again now, and I think it should work now. So let me know early.
No, we see the video, but we don't hear any sound.
You can't hear any sound. Okay. Maybe it's got to do with the headphones. I don't know. I'll try to return it to some kind of standard state. Bernard Stiegler was one of the best-known French philosophers in the 21st century, and he created the most comprehensive philosophy of technology. According to Stiegler, this is an age of automata and automaticity. So, Stiegler made. Can you give me a sign? Can you hear it?
Yes, we can hear right now. So just.
Oh, okay, okay. So I'll start again. Bernard Stiegler was one of the best-known French philosophers in the 21st century, and he created the most comprehensive philosophy of technology. According to Stiegler, this is an age of automata and automaticity, which is a continuation and extension of literacy, the scientific revolution, and the 19th century industrial revolution. Stiegler's view is that humans have always been technical. During an early part of his career, he was a computer programmer. Stiegler wrote more than 30 books, and his main work is the 3-volume Technics in Time published by Stanford University Press. He was a guest lecturer and speaker throughout France and Europe, the USA, Japan, and China. Stiegler made the case that humans are originarily technical. Technics help us to realize individual and collective aspirations and hopes. However, during the current Anthropocene era, our societies are increasingly shaped by algorithms and automated systems. The environmental crisis, pandemics, populist politics, income inequality, poverty, and feelings of despair were issues that Stiegler sought to address through his philosophy. He hoped to redirect the goals of technology away from total automatization and to spark a renewal of democratic participation. Stiegler's thought may be helpful in guiding research directions in our current era, and an introduction to a framework for understanding his philosophy is the topic of my presentation. A useful place to begin is Stiegler's own observation about philosophy. He has said, quote, "Philosophy consists of considering the milieu while being able to extract oneself from it, in the same way as a flying fish can leave the water, intermittently," unquote. He makes the important point that we usually take for granted and do not notice all of the ways in which our daily existence is influenced by technology. Stiegler describes that humans have always been technical. This originary technicity of humans is conducted through grammatization. Human lived experience consists of continuous flows of perception, thought, and activity. Human perception takes place through primary and secondary memory. So, our lived experience carried out in primary and secondary memory is converted into tertiary memory, such as tools and signs by means of grammatization. Throughout human history, Tertiary or external memory has been the background that guides our successive development. In Stiegler's view, individual and social memory is located not only in individual brains, but also among them and in artifacts. Tertiary memory is similar to mediating artifacts in sociocultural theory. Stiegler sometimes refers to Vygotsky's and Angestrom's activity theory. Tertiary memory or techniques, such as writing or architecture, are prosthetics that guide us and remind us what to do. For the rest of this presentation, I will focus on three aspects of Stiegler's philosophy. These are originary technicity, grammatization, and the pharmacon. I will provide examples of each aspect. Originary technicity refers to the fact that humans have always been technical and have always used tools. Hominin species are those that are human or who have a very close genetic relationship to humans. An interesting characteristic of hominin species is the ability to use tools to accomplish tasks. In the past few years, research has shown that stone tools made by present-day monkeys are identical to those made by early humans and pre-humans. For example, in this video, you see capuchin monkeys breaking rocks. Scientists in Brazil report that flakes of rock made by monkeys are identical to stone tools made by early humans. Making stone tools was the original human technical activity. More evidence of originary technicity can be found in cave paintings. More than 40,000 years ago, people were making records of their existence on cave walls. The paint and other materials used in these works have lasted for thousands of years. This is a map of the locations of cave paintings in Europe since about 45,000 years ago. Hundreds of caves with paintings have been discovered all over the world. For example, on December 18th of 1994, paintings of lions were discovered in Chauvet Cave in France. The lions are depicted in various poses while running. The lions were painted accurately. In addition, the motion of a lion running was also captured by drawing successive images that represent the positions of a lion as it runs. This drawing required a kind of prototypical grammatization, which I will return to later in this talk. These images display the successive frames from the previous video. Of course, originary technicity consists of more than flint stones and cave paintings. The transition from pre-human to human is gradual, and the tool-making capabilities develop over millions of years. This gradual process of technical change and refinement was what Stiegler calls grammatization. Grammatization is a process whereby continuous flows of human thought, action, and activity are transformed into incremental steps in inorganic material. Humans work continuously to supplement their environment, and the manner in which this occurs is grammatization. Tool use requires intellectual faculties such as reflective thought and self-consciousness, which are developed in a social context. The concept of grammatization can be used to describe how all human movement and behavior can be analyzed, discretized, and reproduced. Grammatization is based on the Greek word gramma, which translates into letter in English. Gramma also means to trace lines. Grammatization means that we use a particular code, such as a mark or an alphabet, or an ideographic code, to link signs to sounds and ideas. These marks allow us to intentionally trace lines on some material, such as stone, clay, wax, papyrus, or paper. In grammatization, human speech is represented in alphabetic characters. Bodily movement is replicated in mechanical systems. Sound and sight sensations are reproduced analogically in audio and video recordings, and analytic thought is reproduced in digital technologies. According to Stiegler, grammatization involves the transformation of human behavior into a discrete spatialization of time. Given that our behavior is a form of time, such as meaningful sequences of words, operational sequences of bodily actions and gestures, the perceptual flow of sensations, analytic thought, and so on. For example, transforming the temporal flow of speech, such as the human voice that you hear now, into textual space takes place in alphabetic writing, which makes speech into separate spatial objects, which can be recorded and reproduced. Other spatial objects can be formed from human behavior and can be engraved on a wall, inscribed on a clay tablet, written or printed on paper, formed into a mechanical tool, temporarily stabilized on a silicon memory chip, and so on. Next, I will explain the 4 stages of grammatization, which are literal, mechanical, analog, and digital. These stages of grammatization designate different ways of exteriorizing memory. The term literal grammatization refers to creating an alphabet with separate letters to represent speech. Writing began over 5,000 years ago. This eventually led to movable type and the printing press. An early form of literal grammatization is cuneiform. Cuneiform is the writing system that was developed in Mesopotamia circa 3500 BCE by the Sumerians. Writing with cuneiform continued for almost 3,500 years. It was a relatively slow form of writing, and since it was written in clay, it had to be sunbaked or kiln fired. Cuneiform tablets were difficult to reproduce. Cylinder seals were the main way to authenticate identity and were the quickest way to reproduce text. The Latin alphabet used today appeared in the 1st century BCE. The Latin alphabet evolved from Egyptian hieroglyphics through Phoenician and Greek. The first true alphabet was Greek, in which each letter or grapheme represented a different phoneme or sound. The creation of alphabets led to the development of mathematics and higher learning. In the history of Greek mathematics, literal grammatization enabled the use of variables and the development of algebraic equations and algorithms. For example, Mathematicians such as Thales, Pythagoras, and Euclid relied on mathematical symbols and alphabetic notation. In the previous section, we saw that literal grammatization led to the creation of writing and alphabets, which further led to mechanical grammatization. Literal grammatization resulted in separate letters that could then be made into movable metal type made from lead or tin. Movable type made it possible to create the printing press, which spread writing throughout Europe. The lead or tin type 1 is arranged in a sliding tray 2 and then inked. The paper is placed on another tray 3. The paper tray is folded over the type tray 1. Folded together, the two trays are slid under the screw-down press 4. The printing press marked a clear transition from graphic traditions to mechanical reproduction and industry. By the year 1500, there were thousands of printing presses throughout most of the larger cities in Europe. The use of printing presses spread the idea of mechanical grammatization throughout the world. In the previous section, we saw that a phonetic alphabet enabled the grammatization of writing gestures through movable type and the printing press. Similarly, the grammatization of weaving was enabled in the creation of the mechanical loom. Combining the mechanical loom with the steam engine led to the automatic machine in general. Weaving materials for cloth, bedding, and other purposes was one of the largest industries. However, 300 years after the printing press, weaving still had not been automated, and each loom required one human weaver. In 1745, Vaucanson created an automatic loom. In 1804, French weaver Joseph Jacquard invented a new loom attachment, which automated how patterns were woven. A skilled worker translates the design into punched cards. The holes in the cards select threads for the pattern and allow the hooks to pass through. Each complete card represents one row of the pattern. The cards are stitched together in a chain and fed into the loom. The weaver creates the pattern fabrics by passing threads over and under one another using a shuttle. This slide depicts the relation between the holes on the punch card and the transfer to specific mechanical actions that weave the material. The power of the steam engine combined with the Jacquard machine led to the Industrial Revolution. Grammatization and automation of specific manual practices eventually replaced or changed human and animal labor. The idea of using punched cards for both data storage and process control was developed gradually over almost 150 years. In most cases, there is no evidence that each inventor was aware of prior research. Herman Hollerith, who later founded IBM, was the first to use punch cards successfully for data entry and processing, beginning with the US Census in 1890. IBM card punch machines were used into the 1980s. I learned to program using punch cards. Billions of cards were produced and stored in warehouses. In the previous section, we saw that a phonetic alphabet enabled the grammatization of writing gestures through movable type and the printing press. In the following section on analog grammatization, we will see that the grammatization of oral and visual perception, such as phonographic and photographic recording, led to cinema and the culture industries. This slide traces the transition from shadow play to cinema. Shadow play using puppets was known in ancient times and gradually evolved to projected slides or frames with rear projection of light onto a translucent sheet or screen. Next came the zoetrope, which is a revolving cylinder of frames that simulates repetitive motion of drawings in adjacent frames. This is similar to the cave drawings of lions that we saw earlier. The flipbook is a collection of sequential frames that create the illusion of motion. When flexible celluloid film became available, Auguste and Louis Lumière held the first showing of a motion picture on the 25th of January, 1896. The frame is a spatial representation of continuous reality. Similarly, audio recordings were traced or etched into hard wax and then hard plastic cylinders. This was also a spatial representation of continuous sound waves. The Edison phonograph is the first popular example of analog grammatization. Tinfoil is wrapped around a cylinder. Shouting into the horn causes the diaphragm to move the stylus. The cylinder is rotated at the same time, and this results in the stylus etching a groove into the tinfoil. Returning the cylinder to the starting point and rotating it again causes sound to be produced and amplified back through the horn. Previously, I have referred to three stages of grammatization: literal, mechanical, and analog. The fourth stage is digital grammatization. Digital grammatization allows all forms of technological automatisms to be unified. These forms include mechanical, electromechanical, photoelectrical, electronic, biochemical, and so on. Unification occurs through all types of sensors, actuators, and related software. An essential element of the digital stage is the binary numeral system. Gottfried Leibniz studied binary numbering in 1679. In 1703, Leibniz published a paper with the French Academy of Sciences announcing his invention of the binary code. Leibniz's explanation of binary arithmetic provided explanations and examples of elementary arithmetic operations using binary numbers. Then, in the 1930s at MIT, Claude Shannon implemented Boolean algebra and binary arithmetic using electronic relays and switches for the first time. The binary code was ideal for the design of electronic circuits, which were the precursors to electronic chips. Shannon used the binary number 1 to mean positive, or presence of an electrical current, and the binary number 0 to mean negative, or absence of an electrical current. Binary data is sometimes portrayed in the popular press as having this form. However, Shannon realized that we can assign arbitrary values to the binary code. A string of binary numbers can represent data, sound, still and moving images, codes, or any symbol. Standards were established by which binary codes were assigned to alphanumeric characters and other codes and data. One of the first such standards was the ASCII code for computer keyboards. For example, the binary number for the lowercase letter I is 01101001. Thus, a keyboard input of the letter I converts to ASCII 69, which in turn converts to binary 01101001. Here, we might imagine how text is represented at a network or machine level. What we see on a computer screen is not how the data are represented internally. We have seen how the original technical characteristic of humans called originary technicity is revealed in grammatization. Grammatization is a process that transforms continuous flows of human thought, action, and activity into incremental steps that Stiegler categorizes as literal, mechanical, analog, and digital. The last aspect of Stiegler's philosophy that I will consider here is the pharmacon. The pharmacon is an important concept in Western thought and has been known and discussed since antiquity. Stiegler's discussion of the pharmacon is based on Plato's idea in the Phaedrus, which is one of Plato's Socratic dialogues. The term pharmacon is the idea that writing constitutes both a gain and a loss. In the dialogue, Socrates tells the story of an Egyptian king who refused the gift of writing because, although writing could keep a record, a gain, overall it would lead to forgetfulness, a loss. For example, when speaking, you have the possibility of clarifying concepts through discussion and dialogue. With writing, you only have what's on the page. Since the author is absent, you cannot ask questions about the intended meaning. What is on the page is always incomplete because some part of the meaning is withheld in the author's mind. Stiegler wants us to understand that we are already immersed in a context saturated by the widespread external memory of techniques, such as language, writing, machines, electronics, and transportation, and that we cannot have internal memory without participating in external memory. We cannot separate or isolate ourselves from technology. We are always faced with both the gain and the loss presented by grammatization. This slide displays a summary of the pharmacon for each stage of grammatization. We have time only to consider the pharmacon of digital grammatization. Digital grammatization has the ability to unify computational data and algorithms from all other stages of grammatization. Since all processes and automatisms can be rendered in digital form, all techniques can be digitized and unified. This is already happening. The goals of producers are being made those of consumers, and digital unification makes possible neuromarketing and neuroeconomics. The goal of total automatization is apparent in online marketing and sales, where all interactions can be tracked and analyzed. Stiegler asks us to consider that digital objects cannot be experienced directly or knowingly. For example, the execution of an algorithm may be something like an electron that has just struck our skin. We can imagine it, but we cannot sense it. So, even though we cannot experience an algorithm itself directly, digital phenomena taken all together do concretely participate in our imagination. Stiegler also asks us to consider what happens when digital automatization has taken place in a way that exceeds our awareness, our imagination, and our ability to question or evaluate what is occurring. Will it lead to total automatization, including automatization of our consciousness? The gains of digital grammatization are huge. However, the loss may be difficult to imagine. Stiegler's response to these issues emphasizes a need for active democratic participation to control digital technology. Stiegler wrote over 30 books and many papers, and this talk has been just a brief introduction. The influence of his ideas is growing. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, John. Probably it would be nice if you appear again on our screens.
How's this?
Yes, thank you. So for
just a moment, I'll just get rid of this. I'll stop. Oh, I've stopped sharing. So, yeah. Okay.
Yes, thank you, John. I think unfortunately we need probably to skip question and answer session because we are already quite out of time, and we still have one more presenter. But anyway, that was quite.
You might have been the only attendee, Evgeny, so that's okay. You can send me email or something sometime.
But just quite nice talk.
Well, it's a story, I think one of the consequences of extreme digitization is exactly what Stiegler talks about. It's the loss of attention. So we've now gotten to a point where there are, people are I don't have a phone yet, by the way. I have no smartphone. I know how to use them. And in spite of the fact I had problems with my slide, I'm not too bad using computers, but
the best of us.
I think the fact is that if you look around, there are many there are many results from globalization. So Stiegler's making the clear point that there are losses and gains. So we always proceed as though we're going to solve the next problem. But historically, from ancient times, it's been well understood that there is nothing that we do in human action that does not have a gain and a loss. They're always simultaneously. And so that's the point of democracy, is that we interact and negotiate all the changes that are continuously occurring. And I think that's something students don't get in their education when they study engineering. I used to teach at the University of Waterloo in the Center for Society, Technology, and Values. And the engineers there were very foresighted, long-sighted. They realized that the students needed additional courses to help them think about the context of technological change. And so that's what got me interested in this. And I worked at ISU for about 15 years. And I realized that this sort of information was lacking, but there wasn't much opportunity in an environment where it was mainly English that had to be taught. So that's sort of the post-talk to the talk.
Can I interrupt briefly?
Yes.
Just to let you know that I was attending the whole time, even though you couldn't see my picture.
Oh, yes,
video
we know, no problem.
Because I'm eating my lunch here, and I don't think that's just too rude to show you my eating of my lunch while you talk. I'm just to cap it off, I'm happy to say that I was able to hear your words, your spoken words, and read your written words. Both seem to have some value to me today, because you introduced some new ideas to me that I probably, will benefit from greatly in my writings over the next 10 years, assuming I can still write for the next 10 years and speak for the next 10 years.
I'm
great.
Quite
Thank
willing
you so
to
much
share
for that.
I'm quite willing to share the video. I've got the video, and I can send information to anybody who would like it. So
I would like it. We would appreciate
yes.
it very much. So just I do
yes,
agree.
And I'll send the subtitling too, because I think it could be used in some classes with students. That was part of the audience I was imagining, was an audience of students who need to have a narrative, an explanation of where does all this come from. You're 18 years old and suddenly you're hearing all these things about digital technology, and there's no context because it's not covered in at least in the North American and perhaps the Japanese school system. I know that in Europe there's a lot of history and philosophy at the high school level. I've met people, maybe not anymore, but at one time they used to teach the background to this form of thought.
I don't know. Have you met Genevieve Bell at the Australian National University? Genevieve Bell runs the 3AI program there. She would probably benefit from an introduction and the possibility of contributing this to her program there, which is about this move towards AI and the triple AI program that she has as a graduate program there. It's all about agency. It's all about autonomy and so forth that we're giving to the AIs and the dangers involved in that. I think you'll be interested to hear more about that too. Genevieve Bell, ANU.
Okay, Genevieve Bell at ANU. I know that's in Canberra, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
Good
Stiegler
connection.
just makes the point that he is very pro technology, because to this split of positive and negative attitudes toward technology is the wrong approach. It's always going to be with us. We will always be developing. So what we have to start doing is having a consciousness that recognizes that everything we do has risks. Whether we don't do it or we do it, it's going to have some kind of gain or loss. So we have to be much more open to an interpretive approach when we're doing technology.
Okay, so thank you very much. That could be never-ending discussion. So we have been listening your emotions during your video, which was a little bit too digitalized. So we have had them as a compensation right now. So we need to go further to our next talk, and we hopefully have Professor Satoshi Kuroda with us. if I don't see right now. Kuroda-sensei, could you please appear on the screen? Oh yes, thank you very much. So now I can see you and probably all other participants as well. And I think again, because of very careful preparation of our organizers, we have a very good bridge from this probably slightly philosophical talk by Professor Brian to more technology-oriented examination around digital transformation by Professor Kuroda. So the floor is yours.
Kuroda-sensei, are you here? Oh, yeah. So I'm going to play a video on Kuroda-sensei's behalf. It's an MP4 file. So I'm just going to play it, and then he will go through another file, and then he will take questions probably.
Okay, perfect.
If you allow me to start, I can start. Okay.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for giving me to make today's presentation. The title is Digital Transformation of Communications from the Viewpoint of the Usefulness of Information. The agenda are shown on the slide. The first overview. The new normal we face is forcing us to transform from a face-to-face and physical communications style to a non-face-to-face and contactless communications style. This lecture outlines the digital transformation of communications from the viewpoint of using AI to enhance the usefulness of information. The second, two changes in the new normal. How do communications change? One is a change in the behavior of information users. Opportunities for information users to come into contact with internet media are increasing, and oral communications using video calls is becoming more and more common. The other is a change in the way information is disseminated and collected. The use of internet media has been a topic for some time, but information gathering and communications using social media are becoming a routine issue in the new normal. The third, the new normal style of communications. Instead of one-way communications, we will shift to interactive communications via the internet. It is also important for informants to touch points of communications, such as identifying needs that are varied among information users. For information users, it is important to provide chat-type information that allows them to select information suitable for their situations. The usefulness of pre-designed and pre-created information from the producer's point of view is reduced. A typical example is a document. The primary role of the document is contract performance, recording, and retention. The fourth, design digital communications first. As a result of unavoidable online purchases and communications by consumers who had traditionally placed emphasis on real-world activities and consumers who were not good at the internet, many people realized the convenience of online and wanted to continue it in the future. We need to redesign from offline communications to digital communications, including offline communications. Strategy must be structured in terms of what content will be created and what data will be collected and used. The fifth, we examine the usefulness of information. The usefulness is determined by the following factors, that is, relevance, validity, interactivity, timeliness, understandability, work, and cost. There is a need to take the root of what we want to communicate back to the essence and the source of what we want to convey. Source of what we want to convey, to grasp the fundamentals of the value of the information we have provided, and to evolve the way we provide that value in accordance with the times. The sixth, increase appropriateness and timeliness to gain understanding and sympathy. Open and honest communications in real time is important in new normal communications. The seventh, increase validity and timeliness using AI. AI compares the data it specializes in between the structure of the created information and the structure of the information requested by the information user. Use AI to extract, match, and recommend data that includes a number of suggestions, such as what people are happy about and dissatisfied with, and how to obtain information. These are digital communications that allows AI to act as a bridge between information producers and information users. The eighth, creation, delivery, usage, and have them be used. The new normal prefers to communicate over the internet without sharing real places or things. Information producers are required to place greater emphasis on providing what they need, when they need it, where they need it, through the most appropriate media and means. It has become unacceptable not to change traditional communications techniques with priority given to the convenience of the center of information. This is a new normal in the area of communications. Under the new normal, not only letters and illustrations, but also digital transformation waves come. It is worthwhile to free information from the constraints of place, time, and goods in order to provide valuable information by taking advantage of new ways. We collect and analyze data that explore the ideal information sought by information users and pursue how information can be delivered and used. Thank you very much for your listening.
Thank you for this presentation. Now we have Kuroda Sensei back with us in person.
There is an additional file that Kuroda Sensei would like to go through. This is probably another 10 minutes and then.
Okay, thank you very much for your listening to my presentation. With the topic 4th, design digital communications first, I stressed the importance of structuring the TC contents in association with the latest market information. The PDF file shown on the screen is the result of market survey made by Adobe Japan during the warning period for 2020. And because of the warning period, the customer's attitude have changed quite much. So finally, I would like to stress that technical communicators have to design the TC contents after surveying the latest markets under the new normal. Okay, thank you very much for your listening.
Okay, thank you, Kuroda Sensei. I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yes.
So, do you believe that the changes in human behavior because of COVID issues can be long-lasting, or the behavior will rather be restored after the society successfully probably overcome this pandemic? Do you believe that these changes are some sort of permanent changes, or the people will keep such changed behavior or go back?
So I would like to answer to your question. I think a lot of behavior, customers' behavior would not return to the behavior before the COVID-19, in my opinion. So I believe that the human behaviors have been always changing, affected by this COVID-19 pandemic, and also progress of the technical effects as well. Yeah, this is my opinion.
Okay, I see. Thank you. So, dear colleagues, more questions, considerations, comments, concerns? So, if we don't have more questions to Kuroda-sensei, I'd like to thank him for sharing with us his views on how the actual situations may affect the ways digital transformation affect the society in turn. And according to our schedule, the presentation of Professor Kuroda concludes the session. And that's why probably I would give time for some last words for this session to Debo, just probably to briefly summarize. So Debo, would you like to say something in the short summary of this first session?
Yeah.
Is it possible to just, I was thinking about a question and that I had, and I was formulating it, and I was just wondering, is it possible to still ask a question of the last speaker?
Yes. Okay, of course.
The question is pretty simple and it's quick, but I'm not sure that the answer is easy or possible. But anyway, it's just that you know, in your talk, you know, you were focusing on you know, the change from face-to-face communication and the technology that we use now. I wonder what you think about globalization. I mean, when I left Japan, that was still the thing that everybody talked about, globalization. And then within a few months, the flights were limited and so forth. And so things have really changed. And what do you think will happen with that kind of, that was a kind of a dream that was offered by the corporate world and by governments for this globalization. It's also in contrast to the environmental crisis as well, because they're kind of in direct conflict with each other. So I just wonder what you think the role of the online technology will be, and will it persist? And that's it.
The question is quick, but the answer could probably be for several hours.
Well, it could be, but have you thought about? Okay, have you thought about that?
Do you have something to comment about this globalization-related issues? We can't hear. Kuroda-sensei, your microphone is turned off.
We didn't hear.
Okay, thank you very much for your interesting comments. I also agree with you. We have a lot of changes, yeah? Globalism, and also we face environmental issues as well, and so on. So therefore, we think we face a lot of changes in society. So we think accordingly, people's behaviors would be also changing in the future as well. So therefore, we should realize the present situation of the market And this is the idea of my today's presentation based on the new normal. Thank you very much for your nice comments.
Thank you.
Thank you. So Debo, some final words?
Well, yeah, thank you. I mean, it was quite exciting to have gone through all these talks, going from mind to information access, and finally where we are in the society right now, how things are changing very rapidly. So yeah, it was quite.
And we finished almost in time, so just.
Yeah, yeah. It's very timely that we are finishing up with the COVID-19 situation and its implications. And Kuroda Sensei, I was about to ask you that one question, that when it comes to services sector where you are right now, working with your company, ISP and so on, I mean, it's probably quite a bit possible to work from home. Okay, teleworking is probably quite possible, but the culture in Japan doesn't permit that as much, because manufacturing has always been has always taken a very center stage. And if you're working in a manufacturing plant, you of course cannot work from home. So this kind of a cultural dichotomy and the actual practice, how we are being pushed towards working from home. This situation, it's very strange, and we don't really know how much the public is able to go by what the instructions are right now and what the company is asking them to do, because it's now culturally inbuilt that they need to go office, they need to take the train, and it's not possible to the Hanko culture, for example. So it creates a very complicated situation in Japan, and there's no easy answer to that kind of thing. But anyways, this is just, I know there's no easy answer to what I am asking, so I won't even expect an answer now, but just wanted to tell you that, that probably you're also feeling the heat, but it's probably easier for your company to manage that situation as compared to a factory scenario. So anyways, yeah, thank you very much. I won't keep you holding because our next session is coming up at 2 o'clock Japan time. So that's about 2 hours from now. So have a good lunch, and thank you again for joining in.
Yes, it was my pleasure to serve this session as a session chair. Unfortunately, this afternoon, though, I encourage everyone to join the next session today and the next sessions afterwards. But today, I am not able to join the next session because I have a rare opportunity to play a Steinway piano installed in a concert hall in Niigata. And I couldn't miss such an opportunity because this is quite hard reservation you reserve in several months before. So just I will go playing piano tonight, and I will be back to the conference probably tomorrow. Okay. But thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good luck.
Thank you, Debo Sensei, and thank you, enjoy this. Thank you. And sorry, I have to leave because my students are going to give a presentation for their 4-year thesis tomorrow.
Okay, good luck.
Thank you very much.
I remember it well.
Thank you for
your See you, Bill. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Bye.
See you later.